so the first throw we're going to be looking at is the basic Ogoshi. So I want you guys to grab the collar, and when you grab that grip, always go near his shoulder, so on the same line as his clavicle. All right, don't go too low or too high, just right here. Now you have a good control. Now, of course, my opponent's going to do the same thing, so he's also grabbing right here, and now that's going to give you access to this arm right there. All right, so we're making a nice grip behind his elbow. Now I want to position myself so I can get that angle to get my arm underneath his arm on his side. So what I'm going to do is move and take a step to this direction. And at the same time, I'll let go of the grip so I can go behind his back right here onto his waistline and grab that belt. All right, so when you grab the belt, try not to just go here on the near side. Go as far as possible towards the outside and grab the far side grip onto the hip. That way they have a better control using your arm. Now from here, once you have this connection, now it's time to take a step across his foot and point into the direction you're going to throw him. So I'm going to take a step with my back foot. This right leg is going to take a step in front of his leg right to here. And look, that'll make it very easy for me to throw him over my hip for the Ogoshi. So again, take a step onto the outside so you can make a grip behind his belt. From here, step across. As I step across, look, I'll bring my foot in front of his foot and shift my hip so it makes it easy for me to turn Alex over the hip. The second one right here is called the Koshiguruma. So this time, I'm not going to take a step on this direction. This time, I'll take a step in this direction, all right? So I'm going to bring my foot across, but at the same time I do this, I'll bring my hand over his shoulder this time, not underneath. And now I'll start to turn to trap and cup 5 fingers onto his shoulder as such. When I do so, my feet have to turn in the same direction I'm going to throw him. So watch, this back foot right here is going to pivot in this motion, right to here, pointing there to there. Boom, turn my feet. My feet are placed in between his. And look, once he's here, look, when I pull him, the hip is going to bring his feet off the mat, not the arms, all right? So that's super important. So we need to bring our hips and connect them against his body. So from the beginning, as I step across, I start to bring this here, and I turn my feet so I can lift Alex using my hips, and then pull and turn him for the Koshiguruma. Now for most of these throws, especially this last one, it's important to understand where you position your feet. All right, so right now I'm positioned here. So if you look at this mat right here, there's a line. All right, so if I were to step on that line, I don't want to step just here. I want to step across onto that line and bring my back foot onto the same line so I can point in that direction. All right, so that is a good trick to remember when you're practicing certain throws, such as the hip throws. So from here, imagine that same line where his toes are. So I stepped across, I brought his balance over. As I turn, my feet are onto the same line before I extend my legs. If I end up and my feet are as such, or inwards, or pointing in this direction, most of my throws will not work. So it's important to have a good base and good feet alignment before you use your hips to throw them. All right, so one more time. As we connect here, I'm going to step across, push him off balance, turn, lift him over my hip to throw him over, and now from there, go for a submission attack or a top control. Another throw we have this time is bringing my arm underneath this arm. All right, so what we're going to do is same step across once again, but look, as I bring my arm, I'm going to imagine that I'm using this palm to punch towards the ceiling. And I'm going to turn my hip and bring his arm across, and using my hips once again to throw him over. Very similar to the previous technique. The only difference on this one is going to be the position of my arms. So I'm going to bring my arm underneath his arm, lift him, use this like a car jack to lift him over and throw him over my hip once again. This one is referred to as ippon sionagi, all right? If you look at all of the throws we did, the first one was bringing your arm underneath his arm. The second one was bringing the arm over his arm on this side. And the last one we just did was bring our arm underneath the lead arm, all right? So the throw, the footwork, they're gonna resemble all of the same thing. The position of your arm is what's gonna differentiate every technique. One more technique we're gonna look at is a basic technique using your foot this time. This is self-defense called the Osotogari, all right? So from here, we're gonna look at a small variation for you guys to step. The exercise to do a good Osotogari is to sidestep away from him. So what I wanna do is bring my shoulder aligned with his shoulder right here. If I stay equal like this, very square, I'm going to bump into him, and what's gonna happen now, I can't bring my far leg across his far leg. If I sidestep slowly, just for exercise, now I learn to separate, and I create a lot of space here to throw this leg and go around his leg. All right, so if I don't understand this concept, once again about footwork, it's gonna be difficult to do the technique. Although they're very easy and basic techniques to do, your opponent in front of you is gonna be moving. So if you only practice like this and you don't have the correct technique, once you're going live, that's never gonna happen. So I need to learn to sidestep a little bit here, all right? Bring my shoulder opposite of his shoulder first and bring it against the second shoulder right here. Now I've created some space right here to bring my leg. So a nice drill I like to have the students do a lot is just sidestep here, bring the leg as a pendulum, and then we practice pendulum front to back. But for this technique, if you're having a hard time, you can modify it and use it almost like a self-defense technique. So what we're gonna do, as I sidestep here, I'm gonna stop right behind his heel and position my leg right to here. I'm gonna let go of the collar and just use my bicep to push his head backwards and then trip him over into position. And that is a modified beginner version of the Osotogari, all right? Used for self-defense sometimes. So for example, maybe you're controlling somebody here, all right? Controlling the arm so he doesn't pull his arm back and hit you in the face for self-defense. If he doesn't have a jack, you would just hold like this, using 2 fingers behind his elbow, and then you're ready to step, move to the side, position your foot right here, and palm, almost like you're using a palm strike to a second person that was behind him, all right? And that makes a very easy version to learn the Osotogari at first. All right, guys, so there you have it. Some basic throws for beginners, also kid-friendly. So hope you enjoyed this content. Leave us a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll catch you
in the next video.
Take care.